Now, usually, we're translating? Yep. Usually, for the Moed season, I try to give a timely message about the Moedim. Okay. And this year, I've given up. I'm not doing that. Because there's only so much you can share on the Moedim. If you know the Moedim and you know the scriptures about the Moedim, there's only so much you can share. You keep repeating the same things over and over again. So, rather than telling you what Yahweh says about taking the lamb, killing the lamb, putting the blood on the doorposts of the house, Yahweh killed the firstborn of Mitzrayim. Come, you know that every year we go, and even if you're a new returning Ephraimite, okay, you still should know those things. You should be familiar with those things in the scriptures. Don't forget my Schwitzklaus, honey. So I'm going to, and plus coming up with 4 messages in 5 days, boo-hoo. Almost as difficult as playing the 7th chord. So, rather than rehash those things again, you ought to know the study to show yourself approved to Yahweh, a workman who need not be ashamed, rightfully dividing the word of truth. I'm going to focus in on a message that praise Yahweh is going to carry me through the Moedim. Okay, we're going to go part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. We're going to go right through the Moedim. Okay, Chris? Is that all right with you? Is that yes or no? What the heck is this? So, we're going to go right through. And this is really what it's all about. Thank you, hon. It's really what it's all about. Being a Nazarene Israelite believer. This is really what it's all about. So, I've entitled this message, Preaching for a Few Hours. Very simple, very complicated. Ready? His presence. Is that simple enough? His presence. Now, a lot of us may let this message go in one ear and out the other. So make sure that's not you, okay? Make sure you don't let this message go in one ear and out the other. Because it'll revolutionize your life, your walk, your ministry with Yahweh. Go with me to Matthew 22:35. The presence of Yahweh is what we need daily. And I feel it today in a very strong way. How many know what I'm talking about? Amen. If his presence does not go with us, we ought not to do anything or move until it does. Of course, this is a daily exercise. It's part of the Great Commandment. What is the Great Commandment? We're going to read it right here in Matthew 22. To love Yahweh with all our heart, mind, soul, and strength. Easy, right? Wrong. Easier said than done. No one in this room loves Yahweh with all their heart, soul, mind, and strength, including me. We grow as Talmidim and we get stronger and stronger, and more of our mind, more of our heart, more of our soul, more of our spirit is given over to Yahweh. More and more and more and more. That's what it means to grow in Yahweh, to mature in Yahweh. And that's why it's a great commandment, because it is the most important thing in our life as Talmidim. It is the single most important thing. Can I hear a good amen? Amen. Look at verse 35, Matthew 22:35. Then one of them who was a Torah master. Stop. Problem number 1. If he was a Torah master, why did Yeshua need to straighten him out and to help him understand what the greatest commandment was? If he was such a Torah master, how come Yeshua had to help him understand the greatest commandment? We like to think that we know the word, but the word is not designed to word us into worship. The word is designed to usher us into his presence. Who was a Torah master, asked him a question, testing him. He would have been more interested in obeying him rather than testing him if he was really the seeking Yeshua's presence. He would have been more interested being in his presence rather than merely what? Testing him. And said, Rabbi, which one is the greatest mitzvah, the greatest commandment? Which one? And Yeshua said to him, you shall love the Master Yahweh your Elohah with all your lev, with all your being, and with your entire mind. The Shema of Devarim 6:4. Hear, O Israel, Yahweh our Elohim, Yahweh is Echad. This is the first, verse 38, and the greatest commandment. And you cannot love him with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and obey the greatest commandment unless you learn how to be continually in his presence. Because if you're in his presence once a week, you can't fulfill the greatest commandment. If you're in his presence only on Shabbat, you cannot fulfill the greatest commandment. Amen. If you're in his presence 5 minutes in prayer before you go to bed on Monday, you cannot fulfill the greatest commandment. If you and I are going to fulfill the greatest commandment, we need to be in his presence on a regular, daily, ongoing, perpetual basis. Can I hear a good amen? Amen. And this, then, verse 39, the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments hang all the Torah and the Nevi'im. That proves that the Torah hasn't been done away with or narrowed down to two commandments. That proves that the entire Torah still exists because the entire Torah hangs on these two commandments. Because if these two commandments are taken away, the entire Torah drops into obscurity in your life. Everything hangs on you getting these two right, numero uno and numero dos in su vida. Everything that you're trying to do on Passover, everything you're trying to do on Chag HaMatzot, everything you were going to do on Yom HaBikurim, in this spring Moedim, everything hangs on these two commandments. All your worship hangs on these two commandments. All your prayers hang on these two commandments. All your actions hang on these two commandments. And the only way to obey these two commandments is not to focus in on anybody or anything.
I know that's right.
And especially not on the Torah. Because the Jewish people, the traditional Jewish people are still looking at the Torah and they are not spending time in his presence, which is why I would not go to a traditional synagogue because the presence of Yeshua is not there. I would go to paint the walls, or I may go to help sweep the floors, but I wouldn't go to worship Yahweh there. Why would I go to worship Hashem when Hashem's presence isn't there? Because without Yeshua, there is no presence of Yahweh. He is the presence of Yahweh. Can I hear a good amen? Amen. That was weak, but I'll let you slide. Amen. Baruch Hashem Yahweh. On these two commandments hang all the Torah. So if we're going to be Torah observant, we're going to have to perfect to love Yahshua, Yahweh Eloheinu, with all our lev, all our nefesh, and all our mind. But you cannot love him with all your heart, soul, and mind without his presence. And you can't obey the rest of the Torah, the Moadim, the Zmanim, the Chagim, without having an ongoing, perpetual, real, practical experience with his presence in your daily life. Because people, places, and things will disappoint you. That's one of the rules of this world. That's one of the rules of this world. People, places, and things will always disappoint you.
Yes, they will.
So you've got to rely on him. And the only way to rely on him is to know and seek his presence. And stop being afraid of his presence. Because a lot of times we're afraid of what we don't know. Now, that's the great commandment. And the second is like unto it. And you'll never do the first.